Elias Mercer had never planned to become famous across 3-star systems. He only wanted a quiet job, steady work, and enough credits to keep his small apartment on Luna Station warm and stocked with real coffee. That was why he accepted the cultural exchange liaison position when the Terran Union offered it. It was supposed to be simple: help an alien guest learn human habits, answer questions, fix misunderstandings. No danger, no drama. At least, that was what the paperwork promised. The alien assigned to him arrived inside a floating containment cradle, surrounded by soft blue light and humming stabilizers. When the hatch opened, Elias leaned forward slightly, careful not to look threatening. The creature inside was very small, no taller than his knee, with pale lavender skin and 4 delicate limbs. Her eyes were large, reflective, and full of constant motion, like she was always thinking 3 thoughts at once. This was Luma of the Kyrthi. She was not a child. Elias had read the file 3 times to make sure. Kyrthi adults were naturally small and light. Their species had evolved on a low-gravity world with thin air and gentle weather. They were brilliant thinkers and careful planners, but physically fragile. Even a short fall could injure them. Even emotional stress could cause medical emergencies. That was why the exchange program was considered risky. Luma stepped out of the cradle, assisted by the field around her body. She looked up at Elias, tilting her head in a way that meant curiosity. "So you are the human," she said through the translator band, her voice high but steady. "You are much taller than expected." Elias smiled awkwardly. "And you're smaller than I expected, but welcome." "I'm Elias, I'll be your assigned liaison." She studied him in silence for several seconds, eyes moving from his boots to his shoulders, then to his hands. "You are intact," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, unsure what that meant. "Good," Luma said. "That simplifies observation." Elias blinked. He made a mental note that Kyrthi conversation patterns might need adjustment. The first few days passed quietly. Elias guided Luma through the human sector of the station, using slow-moving platforms and gravity-adjusted rooms designed for fragile species. She asked many questions: why humans consumed substances that damaged their own organs, why they willingly engaged in physical sports, why they worked even when tired. Her favorite question was always the same: "How are you still alive?" Elias usually answered with a shrug. "We get used to things." Luma found that answer deeply unsatisfying. She spent most of her time in the research suite, connected to the Kyrthi data network and reviewing human medical records approved for exchange. Elias was present whenever she studied, partly to help explain concepts, partly to make sure nothing went wrong. Human data systems were dense and often emotional. Kyrthi minds processed information differently, and overload was a real risk. On the 5th day, Elias noticed something was wrong. Luma had gone completely still in her hovering chair, her eyes locked on a medical chart displayed in the air. The stabilizing field around her body flickered slightly, a sign of stress. "Luma?" Elias asked carefully. "You okay?" She did not answer. He took a step closer. "Luma, do you need a break?" Her head turned slowly toward him. "This data is incorrect," she said. Elias frowned. "Which part?" "All of it," she replied, "but especially this." She enlarged one section of the chart. Elias recognized it immediately. It was a general overview of human reproductive biology included as part of a larger health and lifespan study. He felt his face warm slightly. "Ah," he said, "that section is medical, standard stuff." "Impossible," Luma said flatly. Elias scratched the back of his neck. "I mean, it's been tested for thousands of years." She floated closer, her eyes wide. "According to this, humans can engage in mating behavior multiple times across short periods without permanent damage." "Well," Elias said slowly, "yeah. That's normal for us." Luma's stabilizer field spiked. Warning lights flashed briefly on her chair. "That would destroy a Kyrthi," she said. Our biological tools fracture after limited use. Recovery can take years. Sometimes recovery does not occur. Elias stared at her. I didn't know that. That is because your species is absurd, Luma replied. She looked down at the data again, scrolling faster now. Your tissues repair themselves rapidly. Your pain thresholds reset. Your systems are designed for repetition under stress. This contradicts known galactic biological models. Elias tried to keep his voice calm. We evolved on a pretty rough planet. Gravity, predators, disease. If we didn't adapt, we died. Luma looked up sharply. You evolved under constant damage, she said. And instead of becoming delicate, you became durable. I guess, Elias said. That's one way to put it. She floated back, silent, her mind clearly racing. That night, the Sci-Fi observation team contacted the station administration. By morning, Elias was summoned to a conference room. 3 Sci-Fi scientists appeared as holograms, their images slightly distorted by the translation field. They did not bother with greetings. Human Elias Mercer, said the lead scientist. Explain why your species concealed its biological resilience. Elias raised both hands. We didn't conceal anything. You asked for medical data. We gave it. This data suggests humans are capable of biological repetition that would be classified as self-harm in most species, another scientist said. Elias swallowed. We don't see it that way. Because you survive it, the third said quietly. That makes you dangerous. Elias felt a chill. Dangerous to who? To yourselves, the lead scientist replied, and potentially to others. The meeting ended with no resolution. Luma was ordered to suspend direct questioning and reduce exposure to human biological topics. Elias was instructed to remain available but limit discussion. Neither of them followed those instructions very well. Later that day, Elias found Luma watching humans walk through the station's central corridor. Couples talked, laughed, touched hands. Life moved on, unaware of the panic spreading quietly behind observation glass. Do humans ever stop? Luma asked. Stop what? Elias said, pushing their bodies beyond safe limits. Elias watched a maintenance worker limp slightly as he walked, still smiling as he joked with a friend. Not really, Elias said. We rest when we have to, but we keep going. Luma's voice softened. Your species does not treat the body as something sacred. Elias shook his head. We do, just differently. To us, the body is something that heals, something that forgives. She was quiet for a long time. I said something earlier, Luma said at last, about your tools. Elias nearly choked on air. Yeah, you did. In Sci-Fi culture, she continued calmly, speaking of such things directly is considered scientific, not shameful. That's not always how it works for us, Elias said. I see, Luma replied. Even so, my statement remains true. She looked up at him, eyes serious. You can mate multiple times without your tool breaking, she said. That should be impossible. Elias let out a slow breath. It's not magic, it's biology. Biology shaped by suffering, Luma said. Elias didn't argue. As station lights dimmed to evening cycle, alarms sounded softly in the distance. Somewhere far away, political discussions were already beginning. Other species would hear about this. They would ask questions. They would worry. Luma hovered closer to the glass, watching humans move through their lives, unaware of how strange and frightening they seemed to the wider galaxy. Elias, she said quietly, your species survived by enduring what others could not. He nodded. Yeah. That means, Luma said, the galaxy is not ready for you. Elias looked at her small, fragile form and wondered if the galaxy would ever be ready at all. The station did not feel the same after that day. Elias noticed it first in the small things. Security drones hovered longer in the corridors. Medical staff asked more questions during routine checks. Data access panels blinked with new restriction symbols. The cultural exchange program had not been canceled, but it had changed. Quietly, carefully. like someone stepping around a sleeping animal they were no longer sure was harmless. Luma felt it too. She remained in her protected suite most of the time now, the stabilizing field around her tuned higher than before. Her people had ordered it. The Sci-Fi Council did not like uncertainty, and humans had become a very large one. Elias visited her every day. He brought food samples, mostly sealed, sometimes just to explain why humans liked bitter flavors or burned drinks. He talked about Earth, about storms and mountains and oceans that could crush ships. Luma listened closely, her eyes bright, her fear mixed with wonder. On the seventh day after the meeting, Luma asked a question that made Elias stop walking. "Do humans ever break?" she asked. He looked down at her hovering chair as they moved slowly through a low-gravity corridor. "Of course," he said, "all the time. But you repair yourselves," she said, "again and again." "Not always," Elias replied quietly. She processed that in silence. Later that same day, the Sci-Fi Council issued a formal notice. Humans were to be temporarily reclassified as a high-stress adaptive species. It was not an insult, but it was not praise either. It meant study. It meant distance. It meant rules. Elias read the notice on his tablet with a growing sense of unease. "They're scared," he said aloud. Luma floated beside him, her stabilizer humming softly. "They are cautious," she corrected. "Fear is inefficient." "Looks a lot like fear from where I'm standing," Elias muttered. The notice included new restrictions. No unsupervised human-Sci-Fi interaction. No biological comparisons without oversight. No physical proximity beyond approved distances. Luma read it twice. "They are trying to protect us," she said. "By locking us away from each other?" Elias asked. She did not answer. That night something went wrong. An alert pulsed through the station's emergency channels, soft at first, then urgent. Elias was in his quarters when his tablet lit up. Unauthorized data breach. Research wing. Sci-Fi access node compromised. Elias swore and grabbed his jacket. When he arrived, security had already sealed part of the wing. Human guards stood at the doors, weapons powered but lowered. Inside, Sci-Fi scientists argued rapidly through translators. Luma's suite was dark. "Where is she?" Elias demanded. A guard hesitated. "She left the suite before lockdown, alone." Elias felt his stomach drop. "That's not possible. Her stabilizer was disabled," the guard said. "From inside." Elias didn't wait for permission. He pushed past and ran. He found Luma in the data archive chamber, hovering unassisted in the low-gravity field, her chair abandoned behind her. Screens surrounded her, filled with scrolling information. Her stabilizer implant glowed faintly under her skin, working far beyond safe limits. "Luma," Elias shouted. "What are you doing?" She turned slowly. "I needed confirmation," she said, her voice strained but steady. "They will not believe one mind. They require patterns." "You're going to hurt yourself," Elias said, stepping closer. "I am already hurt," she replied, "just not physically." Her eyes moved across the screens. "Other species are accessing human data now," she said, "not just Sci-Fi." Elias froze. "What?" "They are curious," Luma said, "and afraid." As if summoned by her words, a new presence filled the room. A holographic emblem appeared, sharp and angular. Elias recognized it from briefings. The Viewership Dominion. A voice followed, smooth and cold. "Human resilience is impressive," the voice said, "and inefficiently guarded." Elias clenched his fists. "You have no right to be here." "We have every right," the voice replied. "The data was shared through legal channels. Your biology is now a matter of galactic interest." Luma's breathing quickened. "They view you as a resource," she whispered. The Viewership's voice continued. "A species capable of repeated biological stress without degradation has military and economic value." Elias stepped in front of Luma without thinking. "She's an observer," he said. "Leave her out of this." "Observation leads to opportunity," the voice replied. "We intend to request access to human subjects." "No," Elias said firmly. The hologram flickered, then vanished. Security alarms grew louder. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, Station Command declared an information containment protocol. Human diplomats argued with alien envoys in closed chambers. Trade routes paused. Messages flooded the network. Luma was placed under medical supervision. Her stabilizer implant had suffered microfractures from overuse. Recovery would take time. Elias sat beside her in the medical suite watching the monitors. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have stopped you." "You tried," Luma replied weakly. "I chose." She looked at him, her eyes dull with exhaustion. "They will come," she said. "Others like the Vierks, they will want to test your limits." Elias leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face. "We're not lab equipment," he said. "We're people." "People who survive what others cannot," Luma said. "That makes you valuable." A day later, the Galactic Symposium was announced. An emergency assembly. Neutral ground. All major species invited. Topic: Human biological classification and risk assessment. Elias was listed as a witness. He stared at the notice in disbelief. "I'm not a scientist," he said to the station commander. "I'm an engineer." "You're human," the commander replied. "That's enough." Luma insisted on attending despite her condition. "They must hear from someone who understands both sides," she said. "And they must see that humans inspire trust, not fear." Elias wasn't sure the galaxy was ready for that. On the transport to the symposium station, silence filled the cabin. Luma floated in a medical cradle beside him, her movements slow and careful. "Elias," she said softly, "may I ask something personal?" He nodded. "Sure." "Does your resilience ever frighten you?" she asked. Elias thought of scars, of old injuries, of people who had pushed too far and never come back. "Yes," he said, "all the time." "Then you are not reckless," Luma said. "You are brave." The symposium station loomed ahead, massive and cold, a place where words would shape futures. As the transport docked, Elias felt the weight of countless eyes waiting beyond the doors. Humans had survived storms, predators, and time itself. Now they would have to survive attention. And that, Elias knew, might be the hardest test yet. The symposium station was older than most modern alliances. Its halls were built wide and tall to welcome many shapes and sizes, but the atmosphere inside felt tight, like everyone was holding their breath. Flags and symbols floated as holograms above the central chamber, each one marking a species that had sent representatives. Some were curious, some were nervous, a few were openly hostile. Elias felt very small as he walked forward. Luma hovered beside him in her medical cradle, her stabilizer humming softly. Her movements were slower than before, but her eyes were sharp. She watched everything. They reached the center platform. A soft field formed beneath Elias' feet to steady him. Across from them, tiers of delegates rose like steps of judgment. The moderator's voice echoed through the chamber. "This emergency symposium is now in session. Topic: Human biological classification and risk assessment." Elias swallowed. A Kyrthi elder appeared as a hologram near the center. Their form was thin and fragile, almost shimmering. "We begin," the elder said, "with testimony from the human liaison known as Elias Mercer." Every eye turned toward him. Elias took a breath. He had fixed engines under pressure. He had worked through decompression drills. None of that compared to this. "I'm not here to scare anyone," he said. "I'm not a soldier or a scientist. I'm just a human who agreed to answer questions honestly." Murmurs spread through the chamber. A representative from a scaled species leaned forward. "Honesty is precisely the concern." Another voice cut in, metallic and sharp. "Your species survives repeated biological stress that would cripple others. That is not normal." Elias nodded. "I know, but it's not a secret. We break, we bleed, we feel pain, we just heal." "Too well," said a voice from the upper tier. Luma's cradle floated forward slightly. "May I speak?" she asked. The moderator paused, then nodded. "Kyrthi observer Luma is recognized." Her voice was calm but carried clearly. "When I first studied humans," she said, "I believed their biology violated natural limits. I believed they were dangerous." She glanced at Elias. "I was wrong." A ripple of reaction passed through the chamber. "They are not dangerous because they endure," Luma continued. "They endure because they evolved on a world that punished weakness." Images appeared around the chamber: storms, earthquakes, predators, diseases. "These forces did not spare humans," Luma said. "They shaped them." A Vierx delegate stood abruptly. "Adaptation does not excuse risk. A species that can repeat stress without collapse is ideal for exploitation." Elias felt anger rise, but he stayed still. "That statement," Luma replied, "reveals more about the speaker than the subject." The chamber went quiet. Luma turned slowly, addressing all of them. "Humans do not seek harm, they seek survival. Their resilience is paired with caution, culture, and restraint." A different delegate spoke, softer. "Then why do they engage in behaviors that appear self-damaging?" Elias answered this time. "Because living hurts sometimes," he said, "and stopping doesn't always save you." He told them about endurance athletes, about rescue workers, about parents who worked through pain to feed children, about people who survived accidents and came back anyway. "We don't do it because we're fearless," he said. "We do it because someone has to." The chamber was silent again. Then a scientist from a crystalline species spoke. "Your reproductive resilience," they said, "is it learned or inherent?" Elias hesitated, then answered carefully. "Inherent," he said, "but it comes with responsibility. It's not a weapon, it's just how we are." Luma watched the reactions closely. Some delegates leaned back, thoughtful, others whispered urgently. Then the Vierx delegate smiled. "Your honesty is admirable," they said, "and naive." Security fields flared briefly. "Our interest," the Vierx continued, "is purely scientific. We propose controlled study of human limits." "No," Elias said immediately. "That decision is not yours alone," the Vierx replied. Before the moderator could respond, alarms pulsed through the chamber. Red light washed over the walls. "Security breach," announced the system. Unauthorized access detected. The lights flickered. The holograms distorted. Elias felt the floor vibrate. Luma's stabilizer spiked. "This is not an accident," she said. The Vierx delegate vanished from their platform. In the confusion, Elias felt a sudden force pull at him. A field wrapped around his torso, lifting him off the ground. Gasps echoed. "Elias!" Luma shouted. Security drones surged forward, but the field was already moving, dragging Elias toward a side exit. Elias struggled, muscles straining, pain flaring through his shoulders. He didn't panic, he focused. He twisted, using the force against itself, shifting his weight in a way no one expected. The field wavered. "Human resistance detected," an automated voice said. Luma acted without hesitation. She overrode her medical limits, diverting power from her stabilizer into the control grid. Her small form trembled, but the field around Elias flickered again. Security fire cut through the air, precise and controlled. The pulling force snapped. Elias hit the floor hard, rolling, pain exploding through his side. He didn't stay down. He pushed himself up, breathing hard, standing between Luma and the chaos. The attackers retreated as fast as they had appeared. Silence fell. Medics rushed in. Security sealed the chamber. Luma's cradle lowered quickly beside Elias. "You are injured," she said, her voice tight. "I'll heal," Elias replied, forcing a smile. The moderator's voice returned, shaken. "This session is suspended," they said. "However, conclusions have been reached." Delegates watched Elias, breathing heavily but standing. They had seen it. Not strength alone. Control. Endurance. Choice. Later, in a quiet medical bay, Elias lay on a bed while scanners moved over him. Bruises bloomed across his side, nothing broken. Luma hovered nearby, exhausted. "I endangered you," she said. Elias shook his head slowly. "You saved me." She looked down. "They will not forget this," she said. "Your resilience is no longer theoretical." Elias closed his eyes briefly. "Neither is our restraint," he said. Outside the bay, representatives argued less loudly than before. Fear had not vanished, but something else had appeared beside it: respect. And that, Luma knew, would change everything. The days after the symposium were tense. The delegates had left the station, but their whispers lingered in the corridors. Security remained tighter than ever, and every data access point hummed with alerts. Elias and Luma moved cautiously through the halls, aware that they were being watched. Every step felt heavy, as if the weight of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. Elias had returned to his quarters, but sleep did not come easily. His body still ached from the struggle at the symposium, and his mind refused to stop replaying the event. He had faced threats before: engines exploding, hull breaches, radiation storms, but nothing like this. This was a test not of skill, but of humanity itself. He knew that other species would not forget what had happened. The Vierks, the crystalline delegates, even some of the Kyrthi, they had all witnessed a human survive danger and act with restraint. Some would admire it, but others would fear it. Elias could feel the ripple of unease spreading far beyond the station, like a tide moving silently through space. Luma floated into his quarters quietly. Her stabilizer was dimmed to a soft hum, and her skin shimmered faintly from the aftereffects of pushing her limits at the symposium. Despite her small frame, there was a quiet strength in the way she moved. Elias looked at her and realized just how much she had risked to defend him. "You're tired," he said. "I am," she admitted. "But more than that, I am concerned." "About the delegates?" he asked. "About you," she said, her voice serious. "And about what they might do next." Elias leaned back in his chair. "We survived, didn't we?" "Yes," Luma replied, "but survival alone does not guarantee safety. You are remarkable, Elias, and that makes you a target." He nodded. It was true. Humanity's resilience was no longer a secret, and with it came both respect and danger. The following morning, alarms rang across the station. Security teams rushed to the observation deck, where a large transport had docked without prior clearance. The Vierks had returned, openly this time, with ships bristling with sensors and containment units. Delegates streamed into the station, their expressions unreadable, their presence overwhelming. Elias and Luma were summoned immediately. They arrived at the observation chamber to find the station commander already coordinating with Kyrthi officials. The commander's face was grim. "They're here for you," the commander said to Elias. "They want to study human limits directly." Elias clenched his fists. "They won't take me." Luma floated beside him, her expression calm but determined. "They may try, but if they do, we can prepare, together." The Vierks delegates entered the chamber, their tall, angular forms casting long shadows. Elias felt a surge of unease. Their presence was intimidating, but he refused to show fear. Luma placed herself slightly in front of him, her small body a shield in appearance only. He knew her mind was sharper than any blade. One of the Vierks stepped forward. "Human Elias Mercer," the delegate said. "We have witnessed your species' resilience. We are here to request controlled observation." "You've had your observation," Elias said firmly. "No further testing. No humans are subjects." The delegate's eyes flickered. "You misunderstand. We do not threaten you." "This is scientific inquiry." "Scientific inquiry is meaningless if it puts people at risk," Elias replied. "We are not tools for your curiosity." The room fell silent. Even the Kyrthi officials seemed unsure how to respond. Luma floated higher, her voice echoing with quiet authority. "They do not understand. Humans endure because they must, not because they are designed for study. Their strength lies in choice, in restraint, in protecting those around them. To exploit them is to misunderstand them entirely." A murmur ran through the delegates. Some seemed impressed, others visibly frustrated. The Vierks delegate spoke again, cold and sharp. "Then prove it. Demonstrate your limits under controlled conditions." Elias shook his head. No, our limits are not yours to test. If you wish to understand humanity, observe our actions, not our endurance. The Vyerks paused. Then they stepped back, their posture formal but uneasy. Luma hovered closer to Elias. They may try again, she whispered. But this first encounter has set a precedent. They have seen restraint, not recklessness. That is something your species does uniquely. Over the next several days, Elias and Luma worked with the station's security and medical teams to prepare defenses. They reinforced access points, monitored data networks, and ran simulations of potential intrusions. Luma, despite her small size, proved invaluable. Her knowledge of Sci-Fi technology and her understanding of alien psychology allowed them to anticipate threats and neutralize them before they became real. In the evenings, Elias and Luma would discuss strategy, but also more personal matters. They talked about their respective worlds, their cultures, and their understanding of life and survival. Luma asked countless questions about humans, how they endured pain, how they bonded, and why they continued to push boundaries. Elias answered honestly, sometimes carefully, sometimes with humor, always with patience. One night after a long day of planning and monitoring, Elias asked, "Do you ever wish you were stronger physically? Like humans?" Luma considered the question. "No," she said finally. Strength is not just physical. It is mental, it is emotional, it is strategic. Humans have endurance, yes, but they also have judgment. That combination is rare. Elias nodded. "I guess it's our way of surviving." "Yes," Luma agreed. "And it is why they respect you and fear you in equal measure. They will always underestimate your restraint." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. A vessel had breached the outer perimeter of the station. This time it was not just observation, they were preparing to board. Elias felt his pulse quicken. "They're coming." Luma's stabilizer field brightened. "Then we show them again, not with aggression but with control." The station went into emergency protocol. Doors sealed, personnel took positions, and the security drones powered up. Elias and Luma moved to the command hub, coordinating with the station's defense systems. When the Vyerks boarding team attempted to breach the outer doors, they were met with precise countermeasures. Non-lethal fields incapacitated their entry points, while human and Sci-Fi teams used strategy to contain and isolate the threat. Elias watched from the command console, issuing instructions calmly. His mind worked faster than ever, anticipating every move, adjusting every defense. Luma assisted remotely, her small form managing multiple systems with ease. The battle of wits and strategy lasted for hours, but not a single human was harmed. The Vyerks forces, frustrated and unable to adapt to the humans' combination of endurance, judgment, and strategy, eventually withdrew. After the confrontation, the station was quiet once more. Elias slumped into a chair, exhausted. Luma floated beside him, her stabilizer dimmed again. "You were amazing," she said softly. "So were you," he replied. "You helped me think, anticipate, stay calm. I couldn't have done it alone." Luma's eyes glimmered faintly. "Together, we protected more than ourselves. We protected the reputation of your species." Elias leaned back, taking a deep breath. "It's strange," he said. "We've faced storms, predators, war, and now, just existing as humans is considered a threat." "Yes," Luma said quietly, "but it is also proof. Proof that humans are special. That endurance is not just physical. It is responsibility, choice, restraint." For the first time, Elias allowed himself to feel the weight of what they had accomplished. Not only had they survived, but they had also shown the galaxy a new kind of strength, one that could not be measured by tools, weapons, or experiments. Days later, the Sci-Fi Council sent a message. The Vyerks delegation had been formally reprimanded, and further study of humans would require cooperation and consent, not coercion. Humanity's classification was updated to a high-resilience strategic species, a term that carried respect, caution, and acknowledgement of their unique abilities. Luma looked at Elias as they read the message together. "They see you now," she said. "Not just as humans, but as a species that commands respect by living rightly, by choosing wisely." Elias smiled tiredly. "I guess we're more than just survivors." "Yes," Luma said. "You are the galaxy's example of endurance with judgment. That is rare, even among the stars." Elias reached out, resting a hand on the small stabilizer cradle. "We make a good team," he said. "You are correct," Luma replied, her voice soft but certain. "Together, we show them that power is not only in strength but in how it is used." Outside, the stars shimmered beyond the station windows. Distant planets and systems moved quietly, unaware that one species had just redefined what it meant to endure, survive, and inspire. Elias looked at Luma, and for the first time he felt the full weight of the bond they shared, not just as human and alien, but as partners in proving that resilience, wisdom, and restraint could shape the galaxy itself. The future was uncertain, yes. Threats would come. Other species would continue to test boundaries. But now, humanity's place was clear. They were not simply another species to be studied or exploited. They were a standard, a measure of what it meant to endure with intelligence, courage, and honor. Luma hovered slightly closer, her eyes bright with quiet pride. "The galaxy will learn slowly," she said, "but they will learn, and they will respect what humans are capable of." Elias nodded. "Then we keep going, together." And together they prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that humanity's greatest weapon was not aggression, not tools, not science. It was the combination of endurance, restraint, and the ability to choose wisely, even in the face of impossible odds. The calm after. The storm was unusual in the station. Security had been reinforced, patrols increased, and human activity carefully monitored. But there was a quiet sense of accomplishment lingering in the air. Elias and Luma moved through the corridors more freely now, though every glance from the alien delegates reminded them that the galaxy had not forgotten what they had witnessed. Elias found himself reflecting on the last few weeks. From the first meeting with Luma, to the discovery of human reproductive resilience, to the confrontation with the Orcs, everything had tested him in ways he had never expected. Yet through every challenge, he realized that humanity's true strength was not in physical endurance alone. It was in judgment, in choice, and in restraint. That combination, he knew, was rare and remarkable across the galaxy. Luma floated beside him, her stabilizer humming softly. She had recovered fully from her previous strain, but her delicate form still carried the careful grace of someone who had faced danger head-on. Her small size belied the sharpness of her mind, and Elias knew that without her guidance, much of what they had accomplished would have been impossible. "They are watching," Luma said quietly. Her eyes scanned the corridor ahead, noting subtle movements in the shadows that Elias could not detect. "Let them," Elias replied. "They've seen what humans are capable of. Now they need to understand why we endure, why we survive, and why we act with restraint." Luma tilted her head, considering his words. "Do you believe they will ever fully understand?" "Some will," Elias said. "The others, they'll respect us anyway, whether they understand or not. That's enough." Their first task that morning was a diplomatic meeting with the Scifi Council. The council had invited them to report on the recent events, the Orcs confrontation, and the outcome of the symposium. Elias felt nervous, not because of the council's judgment, but because he knew every word he spoke could shape the galaxy's perception of humans for generations. They entered the grand chamber, wide and circular, with a glowing platform in the center. Luma hovered beside him as the council members appeared as shimmering holograms. Their expressions were unreadable, but their posture conveyed both curiosity and caution. "Elias Mercer," the lead council member said, "you have represented your species with courage and restraint during extraordinary circumstances. We require your report." Elias took a deep breath. The Vierks attempted to take advantage of human resilience without consent. They underestimated our intelligence and our judgment. Humanity's strength is not just in our biology. It is in our ability to make choices, to act responsibly, and to protect ourselves and others. That is what sets us apart, Luma added, and it is what I witnessed firsthand. Humans endure physical and biological stress, yes, but they pair it with wisdom. That combination commands respect and inspires caution. It is rare in the galaxy. The council members murmured among themselves, their expressions shifting subtly. One of them, a delicate, crystalline figure, spoke next. Your testimony is compelling. The galaxy must recognize that humans are not to be treated as mere subjects of study or tools for experimentation. They are capable of great endurance, but also of thoughtful action. Elias nodded. Exactly. Observing humans is not the same as understanding them. To truly know us, one must see how we choose, how we endure, and how we care for those around us. The council seemed satisfied, but the discussion continued with careful deliberation. By the end of the meeting, the council issued a formal declaration. Humans would be classified as a high-resilience strategic species, recognized for their unique combination of endurance, intelligence, and judgment. Any future study or contact would require full cooperation and consent. As they left the chamber, Elias felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer a question. Their capabilities were respected, and their rights were protected. But their work was far from over. Luma turned to him, her eyes serious. The galaxy will not stop testing your limits. Other species will continue to challenge humans, whether through diplomacy, trade, or conflict. You must be ready. Elias nodded. We will be. But now, at least, we know they see what we are capable of, and why it matters. In the following weeks, Elias and Luma focused on education and outreach. They traveled to different sections of the station, meeting representatives from various species, explaining human biology and culture, and demonstrating that humanity's resilience was paired with careful judgment. One day, they visited a classroom where young Scifi were learning about galactic species. Luma floated beside Elias as he spoke. Humans are remarkable, he told them, not because they are invincible, but because they endure. They survive challenges that others cannot, and they do it with responsibility and care. The students listened intently, some wide-eyed, some skeptical. Luma added, "Your own species has its strengths. But understanding other species, especially humans, teaches you how to respect and protect what is unique. Strength without wisdom can be dangerous. Strength with wisdom inspires trust." The young Scifi nodded, absorbing the lesson. Elias smiled, realizing that the galaxy's future depended not just on humans surviving, but on teaching others to value the choices that come with resilience. During a quiet moment later, Elias and Luma walked along the observation deck, watching distant stars drift past. "You've taught them well," Luma said softly. Elias shook his head. "I couldn't have done it alone. You were there every step of the way." "Together we proved something important," Luma replied. "Humanity is more than biology. It is choice, endurance, and responsibility. That is the real power." Elias looked at her small, delicate form and smiled. "You make a good partner in proving it." Luma's eyes glimmered. "And you make a good human to represent your species. Together, we have shown the galaxy that endurance is not enough. It must be paired with judgment and restraint." The station remained quiet, the distant hum of engines a reminder of the vast galaxy outside. Yet within the walls of the station, a new understanding had been forged. Humanity's place was secure, not because they could endure what others could not, but because they chose to act wisely and responsibly with that endurance. Elias and Luma stood side by side, watching as the galaxy's stars slowly rotated in the distance. They had faced challenges, danger, and misunderstanding, and emerged with humanity's reputation strengthened and respected. "This is just the beginning," Elias said quietly. "Yes," Luma agreed, "but the galaxy will remember. Humans are not to be underestimated. Not because they are unstoppable, but because they are wise in how they endure and act." Elias nodded. "Then we keep moving forward together." Luma floated closer, her stabilizer dimmed to a soft, steady glow. "And together, we will face whatever comes. Not with aggression, but with control. Not with fear, but with choice." The stars outside the observation window seemed brighter that night, as if the universe itself recognized the triumph of a species that had endured, survived, and inspired through wisdom, restraint, and courage. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders, but also the strength of humanity behind him. He knew that challenges would continue, threats would appear, and curiosity would persist. But now the galaxy knew something important. Humans were not just survivors. They were a standard of endurance, intelligence, and responsible action. Luma hovered beside him, her eyes reflecting the distant light of countless worlds. "You are remarkable, Elias," she said softly. "And you are remarkable, Luma," he replied. "Without you, none of this would have been possible." They stood together, side by side, as the stars drifted slowly past. Humanity had survived its first true test before the galaxy, and in doing so had earned respect, caution, and a place among the stars, not just as another species, but as a measure of what it meant to endure wisely. The galaxy would never forget, and neither would they. Elias finally allowed himself to relax, knowing that for the first time, humans were understood for who they truly were: resilient, wise, and capable of facing the impossible with courage and judgment. And with Luma at his side, he knew that whatever the universe threw at them next, they would face it together, proving that humanity's true power was not just survival, but the choices that made survival meaningful. The stars outside continued their silent motion, vast and infinite, and within the observation deck of the station, a human and a tiny alien stood together, a testament to endurance, wisdom, and the enduring bond between species that chose to respect one another. Humanity's legend, small as it began, had only just begun to shine across the galaxy.